Hi, good evening, guys. How are we doing today?
Very good, Bullard.
Good afternoon.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so I know we had some technical difficulties last week. So what I'll do is I'll go right over chapter 3 just to make sure persons got the pertinent points, because like I said in the final exam, chapter 3, very easy questions to answer. So I don't want any of you to miss out on that. So I'll do just an overview of chapter 3. I saw that many of you, some persons who I don't even know, sent in their homework last night. And so I was very pleased to see that most of you made an attempt to, answer question 1, which is going to be the mandatory question. So very good that you did it up front. You will know exactly where you're sitting in the class, if you understand, if, we speak in the same language, and if you're comfortable with question 1. Now, I know 1 or 2 of you emailed me saying that y'all tried it, and you may have some questions on question 1. So we'll allow those persons to ask any question, or, on chapter 1 or question 1 too, so that we can all be on the same page. Okay, so let's hear the newspaper articles. And let me just say, so far so good. I'm very pleased with the newspaper articles and the sharing. Let me hear from some persons this week who I do not have on my list, who have not shared so far, because like I said, this is week 4. Next week will be week 5. That means we'll be halfway through the program. And so I think that has come fairly quickly. And for the next 4 weeks, chapter 4 through 7 is all about risk. So, sometimes persons don't catch on the risk right away. So we have some flex time in there to catch up on anything else that we don't understand, since we have 4 weeks on risk. Okay, so let's hear from anybody who wants to get their civic organizations and points. And again, don't let that time pass you by. There is a deadline. I know in my last semester, 1 or 2 persons got 64 and 65, and that 5% could have helped them not have to, retake the final. So those 5 points make a difference for a lot of persons. So please don't let it run away from you. So far I've heard from Shauna, Bria, Shavana, P. How do you pronounce it? Pietra, Nicolette, Shalisa, Shamara, Alicia, Bria, Satisha, Geraldo, and Chia. Okay, so if I did not call your name, that means I misspelled. If you wasn't in intro, Miss Bullet don't even know you. Okay, so make sure that I know you so I can give you your full participation points. Okay, so very good. So Diasman, Bria, and Carrie. Okay, Diasman, we'll start with you. Let me add those names to my list. Diasman.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Hi. You can hear me?
Yes, right, I can.
Hello.
Yes, right, I can.
Okay. So, first of all, the Queen Daniel. I just think the Queen.
Yes. Anybody in mourning? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I am in mourning.
My condolences.
The Queen is dead and Camilla is the Queen. I can't believe this.
Hold Miller. Oh, the Queen. She's the Queen sorted. She ain't the Queen. Consorted. Sorry.
Yeah, is Camilla really the Queen? Like, that's what I want to know.
She's consorted. No. It is so.
Child. From babysitter to Queen. She was child's babysitter.
I mean.
Wow.
She was the babysitter, and she what? 15 or 20 years older than him.
Oh, I was cutting it. Huh? I was cutting it. Man, so anyway, right? I don't have a female home. I'll take it tomorrow. So I just I just can't believe it. I thought, you know, she would out. Her husband died. And never mind. I'm sorry, I get enough call. Sorry. Because if he ain't dead yet. And she,
The queen husband dead.
the queen husband is dead. Okay, never mind, because I know she could outlive him. He was a walking, you know, zombie. But you know what?
Yeah,
Let's
they
talk about
already
how
announced
superplex.
before the UK, they had a rule in that if you were divorced, that you could not I guess become king or whatever. And
Yeah, you
the
can't
queen
take the
had
crown.
written to the parliament and asked them to excuse Charles. And so now, yeah, they announced Charles, they excused him, and so Charles is now the king. So that means Camilla is the queen. Y'all leave Camilla, don't be hating. She's the man's wife, ain't nothing y'all could do. That's your
Man, listen.
But I really thought they would pass it on to what's the name?
To William.
and Kate. And I really didn't think they would take it on. I'm
Thank
surprised.
you. That's who I thought.
Nah, I don't think William ready for all of that.
Well, I don't think Camilla ready.
No, William.
that's right.
Thank you
William
very
ain't
much.
ready.
Camilla can sit small until she call, and I don't want y'all call her. No time. Oh,
Y'all
Gracious.
stop hating. Y'all leave Camilla alone. Okay?
upset me.
When y'all gonna forgive her? When? Like when?
I can't because of what
Never.
she did to Diana.
You better.
No. Now is what he did.
full
He
of-
moved her in the backyard, you know. He moved her in the backyard and then insisted that she become the babysitter now to William and Harry. Because she was his babysitter. You
Oh,
know,
boy.
so you have to blame him.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, you have to really blame Charles. Yeah.
Because that's ridiculous. Anyway, Camilla, the Lord said to forgive, but he never told me to forget.
Yeah, it been but how much years now?
So-
20 years.
Don't worry about that. It's still sting.
Let Camilla
It's
rest.
stinging.
From babysitter to queen?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my
He
God.
didn't
you.
know
Thank you.
Camilla was the babysitter to Charles, her husband. She was married. She had a husband of her own, but she was Charles' babysitter, and she grew him up. You know how they say your first love is the older woman? Yeah, she was his first love. But you know, she was already married. She had children, and so he could not, you know, bring her to light. And so he had to find a young girl who could bear children and stuff. And but they didn't think that Diana would have been so unruly. They thought she would have just been happy. She get this, you know, because she's a commoner. So they thought, you know, giving her a little bit of status would have just shut up and let things be. But it didn't work out that way.
I gotta go back and watch The Crown.
Yeah. Yeah, Lord. But they live very long. so-
Anyway, so,
Yeah, that's your story.
They got
Yeah,
the money
so
for
you have
the
another clip it. You have another.
no, damn, I'm sorry. I just had to let y'all know that the queen is dead.
In case we didn't know. Okay.
But
Thank you.
yeah. But so Superplex, 25% let go, 25% of their staff. 25%
Who's that?
of their
The
staff.
movie place?
Superplex, Fusion, yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Mhm. And
Was
to me, I feel as if, I mean,
based on
the
what?
job straight enough. Just so they could think them, just so, because of COVID still around, they had too much, I think, employees, I guess, the percentage of employees working or whatever in that certain space.
So they
Also,
bought everybody back. 'Cause
money.
you know they was closed for a very long time.
Long time.
Uh-huh. So they bought everybody back when they reopened. Because I thought they let people go then.
Oh, I didn't know that they let people go then, but I know
thought
that
they
they
did.
have like a $3 million like package, like worth of packages that they trying to pay out.
But I mean, how long they been open for? I mean, before.
Thank you
even
very
COVID.
much. That's what I want to know.
Well, like who they
Is
paying
this-
$3
is
million
this-
to?
A crime? They must be let go the execs. That's all I can say. The shareholders.
Yeah, because I sure they only open in what 218 or 219, eh? They been open-
Exactly.
Yeah, and you only get
So
1
you
month.
you
You get
can accumulate that
exactly
much.
get 1 month salary for the number of years. So nobody could be getting paid 5 years. You know what I mean? 1 month for 5
Thank
years.
you. That's just,
Yeah.
I just wanted to know that does that seem like a crime to you? Because I believe that's a crime.
I don't know. We'll have to
I
watch
believe that's a crime.
from they open, right? Let me tell you, some Chinese guys went to school with me.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon. When I went to Fusion, like right after opening, he was there. Now he owns all the. I hear they say these 5 Bahamians, what have you. But he was there walking around with walkie-talkies and blah blah blah. You know, and he said, "Oh, I see you from high school, blah blah blah." Now he owns about 5 Chinese food stores, and he was there walking around with a walkie-talkie. I say something funny about this because there's no way he works for anybody. Now he must be a major shareholder. But you know, they keep happening that these 5 Bahamian guys um own it. I doubt that seriously. And like you said, if they're paying out $3 million, they probably paying out one of their shareholders or something to that effect. You know, they probably have some type of arrangement or subcontractors. Like I said, there's no way he would be working.
Yeah, and like they cut back because like it's too costly maintaining the entire property and building with electricity and water and all those stuff. It was too costly to maintain. But
Yeah, but why
I
did they build
thought
that big
Fusion was
building? They didn't see
making,
what happened to Mario's? Like, really?
thank you, or good.
Right. Like that was anyway, yeah. Okay.
That's a lot. I
Yeah.
feel as if that's criminal activity in the making. But anyway,
Yeah, they probably had to put the money somewhere into building it. Because that was it was beyond me why they would build that big building. That was ridiculous. I know Bahamians really like the movies, but my lord. When you look at maintenance in the end, sometimes in the end really, you know, like a lot of people want mortgages, but it's hard to maintain the house and it's very hard to pay the payment. So you can get that
yep.
mortgage, but you better think about maintenance. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's
it.
my 5 cent drop.
Okay, okay, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah. Anybody else wants to add anything? No? Anybody else read that Fusion story and knows why they would be downsizing so quickly after fighting to open? No? Okay, Bria, go ahead.
No clue, but I just saw they had a $3 movie day on Saturday. And I passed that other day. The parking lot was so full. But I don't have
Yeah.
no clue why they downsizing.
Yeah, that was a worldwide thing or not worldwide, but in Florida too. I saw that a lot of that was considered movie day, and everywhere you were supposed to go in the world of movie, it should have cost $3.
Okay.
So yeah, I saw that.
I see something new.
Yeah.
But I read in the Tribune about the Seaton broker case where this broker in the Bahamas allegedly conduct and conceal a computer hacking fraud and they collected $1.3 million in illegal funds. So apparently the company lied to staff about who the BOs of the stocks were, and they were given trading instructions under false pretenses.
Oh wow.
I was reading about that.
And there's a company right in the Bahamas?
Yeah.
And what they didn't say what the name of the company was?
Seaton Broker.
Seaton. Okay, that's not one familiar. Probably some new one with just developed. So
Mhm.
now they shut down, I would imagine it.
Yeah, they have a court case. But my question is, how were they able to conceal who the BOs of the stocks were?
Well, when they doing the case, they could have untrained persons opening up the account. They could have fraudulent documents, you know, stuff like that. Because you know that's why in the UAE they tell you that you could go get documents stamped by anybody, like a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, but you accepting those at your own risk because they've had so many fraudulent documents. So normally it's something called apostille, but I think it's a step because normally it's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and apostilles a document that the country is now saying, I can confirm that, yes, we issued this passport and it's legit. But a step further in the UAE, it goes to the Supreme Court, and that takes 3 months. So of course, nobody wants to wait 3 months for, those documents to come back. And so of course, they opening up their accounts and saying, okay, we giving them, instead of 30 days like the regulator says, we giving them the 3 months to get these originals in. And could you imagine the type of trading or transfers they would have done in that 3 months?
Exactly.
Yeah, so something like that possibly happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I work as an onboarding officer at Deltec, and Priya could tell you if the certify is not done properly, they just want the name, the address, the telephone number. They send us.
Y'all ain't hiring them.
I don't think so. I know.
Yeah, so yeah, it's important, but you know how the salespeople are, they rushy, they need this account open. Some of them are on commission, they ain't getting paid until that account open. So, they just be on your back right away. They want that account open. So yeah, that's a risk.
And that's the thing too, when you like verifying and opening accounts with persons that know a person and went through a person, they will be on you, and the documents that they will provide wouldn't even be correct, or they wouldn't even be certified. If it's certified, it's not done properly. And it's like, it's be so much. But when it comes to onboarding clients, especially clients that just don't know what they doing,
Right,
that's
right.
a risk.
And see, the thing about it is, it's like a double-edged sword, because the sales persons are under so much pressure. They have to meet a certain target every month. Like I say, some of them are on commission. If the accounts don't open, they don't get paid. And so some of the targets are unrealistic, and so they compromise themselves. There's a million documents that are manipulated. They don't want you to have to do enhanced due diligence, so they manipulate the information. So the person will come out as low risk. So there's all sorts of stuff. You have to be stern. And they say, oh, Miss Bullard, you just take too long, or you don't know what you're doing. Like they try to intimidate you, but you have to be really, really stern in those positions and escalate to your manager when you feel pressured, because this is when these things happen. And I can tell you, when those seeing people who's be on your back in 2 or 3 months, they don't have a job because of the foolishness, that they tried to pressure you to put through. So yeah. So always be thorough, and even if your manager approves it, let your manager get that in writing that they approve it, and just let it go. But make all your notes that, I noticed this was the incorrect document, or the person didn't sign in a particular space. I can tell you, it comes back to haunt you. One guy, when he filled out his W-8 form, he said that I'm a Bahamian. When we got a subpoena, and he was like, oh, give him the 30 days to bring in his residency. So we said, okay, sure. Please, in 30 days, we had a subpoena. And we was asking him, like, where the residency? You say you were a Bahamian citizen. He said, oh, I applied, but I was out on bail. And so they denied me. Was he not already trading in the market? And he shouldn't have been? Yes. Okay, so be careful, and you want to not hamper doing business. There has to be a balance between sales and compliance, but document, make your notes, and make sure you get your approvals. Okay? Okay, very good. Carrie?
Good afternoon, everyone, and Ms. Bullard. All right, so I have a couple of things, Ms. Bullard.
Okay.
Because last week I got in late. And so my first thing was I attended a Kiwanis meeting. This was the Club of Cable Beach. This was held on the 31st of August, which was last week, Wednesday. And they had a guest speaker, their Governor General, I think it was Robert Wu Young. He's a Jamaican national. He was the distinguished governor. Let me make sure I give them the right title. And he spoke to, well, he gave an overview of the club, which was very, very interesting. What the club primarily centers on, which is the children, And they have, he kind of gave us the stats of what the club did over the year, a year in review, of all of the contributions that they made in the various jurisdictions, and mainly in health and nutrition, education and literacy, youth and leadership development. The meeting started about 7:31 around there, came to order by their president, who was Maxine Leary, and they had quite a bit of persons attending the meeting because they had invited other clubs from various other places like the Family Island. They had Vine Grove, Keon, I think Abaco. They had a couple of visiting clubs participating in it because of the guest speaker. And so it was a very, very interesting meeting, and to learn of all of the key things that the key club is involved in. And their key club, they have them ranging from ages 6 up to college or university level. And they primarily, well, they have different names. So from 6 to 12, it's like K-Kids, 12 to 14, they call them Builders Club, and then the higher clubs are like the Key Club, and then the Circle K at the university level. And so you can start in this club very, very young into your adulthood, contributing to the growth and development of kids. So I thought that was very interesting. So I'm looking into also perhaps joining one of the Kiwanis clubs, but it won't be the Cable Beach location. I'm looking into another location, because I think that's key to assisting with the youth, the development of youth and everything else. My mentally, developing them mentally and even nutritional and health-wise. It was very, very good. And then also, I think I'm gonna let Geraldo speak to this, but I also attended the BACO, the Bahamas Association Compliance Office virtual lunch and learn session. That was very, very good. They had 3 guest speakers. I won't go into it too much because I think Geraldo is going to speak to that more. But it was one of my favorite speakers though was the final speaker, Casimir Pinder. She dealt with ethics, integrity, and attitude. She articulated each one of those, giving the disciplines of those when you become, or if you are venturing into becoming a compliance officer. Those are the key things that you need to ensure that you always have: ethics, integrity, and the right attitude, because of the complexities of the job and the role. You need to always ensure that all of those things are in order. So those were my 2 civic organization visitation. Now the newspaper I did read, but I didn't get to really study it really good because I had a very, very challenging week. But I was looking over the gaming sector overregulated article that Dr. John Bain had written on as a part of his dissertation study. And one of the things he spoke on was the risk, one of the risks that they're still looking at that persists in the gaming industry is around the perception of the local gaming houses that they facilitate money laundering and terrorist financing. And so he was asked the question if he felt that was the case, and he said no, because the gaming board adopts a very similar regulation as the banking industry. And so if they maintain those regulations as they shouldn't have, well, that perception should be minimized. And so, yeah, that was my, that's as far as I got with those, Ms. Flood.
Okay, very good, Carrie. Thank you for sharing. And again, it's that perception is there because, they were the underworld. They were not legal for so many years. And I think that reputation just still stays with them. So hopefully, as the years go on and they, they prove their various business ventures. And then, the banks, the minute that they got legalized, then it became they were too cash intensive, and we're going to talk about risk. And so of course, no institution wanted their cash intensive businesses. And so
No,
it wasn't
right.
only number houses, it was the money services businesses as well, the cash and go and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that then they were announcing that they made $550 million a year. So if your revenue is $550 million and no banks accepting your money, only bank in the Bahamas, and deposit insurance is only $50,000. Nobody's going to put $550 million in Bank of the Bahamas, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so where this money is,
There it is. That's
where
That's
it
right.
is, where
That's
it
right.
is. Okay, and so of course we see the buildings popping up. We
Right.
see them buying banks that have vaults, which was very, very strategic and a good idea. If the bank don't buy the bank, and at that time the bank building was very dilapidated, and
Mm-hmm.
so it went for cheap. So they
Yep.
were very smart, and so
Mhm.
that's why they're still perceived as money launderers, because where this money is. That's why. Okay, but very good, very good.
Yes.
Priya.
Good afternoon. So I also attended the Bahamas Association for Compliance Officers virtual lunch and learn. The topic was, are you geared up to be a chief compliance officer or a compliance officer? And they had 3 panelists. It was Miss Natasha Bastian, Jacqueline Hunt, and Keshna Pinder. And it was hosted by Miss Shelley Cook. She is the head of compliance at Delta, and also Baco's vice president. And it began at 11 o'clock and it was done at 12 p.m. on the dot. So it was literal like lunchtime, lunch break period. And the three panelists spoke about various different processes in becoming a compliance officer and the skill set needed to become a compliance officer. So I'll just do a quick overview of everyone's presentation. So basically it started off with Miss Bastian, Natasha Bastian, and she basically was presenting on the required skills of becoming a compliance officer. And I'll just give you, let's just say 2. So 1 specifically was the ability to influence decision-making, and 2, knowledge of the legal and regulatory environment impacting the business. So she noted that it's important to know these skills or to acquire these skills if one intends on becoming a compliance officer. She also stated the constant challenges in this realm, the compliance realm, which is rapid digitalization, new forms of risk, example, the cryptocurrency world, which is rapidly increasing over here and abroad, and an increase in web-based transactions. So basically e-banking and online banking and PayPal and stuff like that is like a wide range of risks with those. The second, she also spoke about all the different regulators in the Bahamas. And we know that's the Central Bank, the Securities Commission, the Compliance Commission, the Insurance Commission, and the Gaming Board, just to name a few. The second presenter, which is Ms. Jacqueline Hunt, she spoke about knowing your business, knowing the industry, and knowing your competencies. So basically, she just went into depth in all 3, telling us in order to become a compliance officer, or if you endeavor to become a compliance officer, whether you are just starting fresh or transitioning from another career path, like a accounting or something like that, you must know the business you're going in. So for example, the banking sector or even the gaming sector, like the casinos and stuff like that. Knowing the industry, same thing. So the financial services industry and the gaming industry, if that is desired. Even the hotel industry has compliance officers. And also knowing your competency is, and basically challenging yourself to broaden your knowledge, basically what we are all doing in this class right now. So that was her her portion of the whole lunch and learn. And then lastly, Ms. Pinder, she spoke on EIA, is what she called it, which is ethics, integrity, and attitude. And she basically said these three skills or these three things are the core of being basically a efficient and effective compliance officer, which I totally agree with. But she went into depth in all three of the acronyms, and overall it was a very informative, very quick, very straight to the point, concise lunch and learn session. And I look forward to attending more in the future, especially if it's like an hour long. So I really appreciate the time. And that's basically it. Hello. I hope y'all hear me.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
hear you.
keep
Yeah, I'm
talking.
listening. I'm happy that you found it beneficial. And I'm glad that you're looking forward to attending more sessions. So
Yeah.
very good. I think Araldo left. Did Araldo fall off, or is he here? No? Okay.
And that counts as my civil organization, right, Miss Bullet? Or I still have to go to a
No,
Kiwanis?
that's it. You get your 5 points for that.
Okay.
Okay, so very good. Latoya?
Good afternoon, everybody, again.
Good afternoon.
I also went to the meeting, the luncheon yesterday. That was very good. Bria, thanks for doing the whole overview because you touched on everything. And I think my favorite was Miss Pinder as well, because even though it was for compliance officers, I feel as though a lot of supervisors could use that as well. A lot of managers, you know. But I did go to that and that was really, really good. As far as my newspaper article, Miss Bullard, I actually started to read today and I didn't have an opportunity to finish, but I noticed that we are now, this actually happened today, that the Bahamas disaster response was set for 160 million transformation. What's gonna affect a lot of our acts, like the Disaster Preparedness and Response Act in 2018, and then the Disaster Recovery Act in 2019. And maybe you could help me out with understanding a lot of it too, though, because I noticed that we got a score of like 22% out of a possible 100. And that was very interesting. Miss Bullard, you there?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm not familiar with their scoring. We'd have to look at their legend to see if 22 is high or low.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to finish it, but it was really, really good. I'm going to finish this tonight.
Okay, finish it, and then I'll try to read up on the scoring as well. What I did see happen today was, after Hurricane Dorian, they spent a couple good $1 million on those domes, and today they were evicting the persons out of the domes, and people were saying, well, we don't have anywhere to go, and a tractor was there, literally smashing them to the ground. And I was like, wow, didn't we just pay 1 point something million dollars?
That's right. That's so sad.
So it was, yeah.
That's why I find that really interesting too today.
Yeah.
That's why I brought up this newspaper article.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
really,
anybody else would have read or have some insight on, I know they gave them a time limit to move, and person simply had nowhere to go, because think about it. All apartments and stuff, they haven't been built back as yet. So where do you go? Do you just leave Abaco and come back to Nassau and live in the gym? I don't know what the expectation is. But if persons are living in them and they are crushing them to the ground with a big tractor, that was sad.
That's inhumane.
Yeah.
But what is the purpose of that, Miss Bullard? Are they putting something else in the space, or?
Well, I don't know. I think there's a sick. When Latoya is reading about this is where they're going to put it, but it's not there yet.
No.
So what do the people do?
Because I heard a gentleman on the news was saying that his family, that's the only place they had, and the apartments are like $1,500 a month. And he doesn't have any job and he has nowhere to go. So we go right
Right.
back to the same problem.
Right. So
Exactly.
Persons misplaced.
right. So you can't, I mean, a lot of people were saying that, oh, the domes, they only need to be crushed to the ground because they're no longer livable. But people living in them and they have a roof over their head.
Exactly.
Tonight, where do they go? These are people who would have just lost everything 2 years ago. So, I mean, my God, you working every day and it's difficult.
And we're back, and this is on the back of the pandemic. So a lot of persons have not caught themselves as yet. So
Correct.
that's another thing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
read this again tonight, Miss Bullard, because this actually was posted today. This was in today's paper.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I'll take a look at it and look at the rating because I don't understand. I remember the backlash with those domes and the amount of money we just spent 2 years ago for them to be knocked to the ground. And a tractor was literally there knocking them to the ground. And people were like running, trying to take their stuff out. So it's crazy. It's
so we're
really
not
crazy.
protected. They're not protected. Aren't they protected by law with that though?
But apparently it's the government who was doing it because police officers were out there to enforce it, to make sure it happened.
But don't they have a process? Because remember when they was doing the shanty towns, they started to do that as well. And then they had to go before the courts. Why would they just skip that whole process?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I
Crazy.
was surprised when I saw it today. I'm not certain. Let's see, Lanique and Diasman, you all have something to add? You all have information about it?
But they did give them notice.
Yeah, but when you have nowhere to go, where do you get notice to go to?
And
A
they were
An
behaving.
hurricane, where do you go?
They did provide some funding too, and some persons, I guess, spend the funding on expensive stuff instead of getting somewhere to live. I think they gave them up to what, $1,000 or $2,000 to get it started. Some got 3,000. But they couldn't find nowhere, so they say.
But not only that, if you get 2,000 or 3,000 and you don't work, what do? Pay first and last month in security.
Yeah, I think
you can't
But
just
how
go
do
to
you
somebody's house.
maintain that?
You have to qualify. If you go and say, oh, I need to rent your apartment, but I don't work, who will rent to you?
That's right.
correct.
So, and I find that the government has been doing a lot of stuff like that. Like the other day, somebody was approached by their member of parliament. The member of parliament said, I don't have a job for you, but if you go and get a business license, we could perhaps give you a contract in the community, right? So I say, okay, so are you going to get this business license? And this person previously used to work at as a garbage truck collector. Now, I'm not saying garbage truck collectors are uneducated, right? But he is not business savvy at all. And to me, waiting 3 months to see your MP, finally getting to see him and sitting down and him telling you go get a business license, not we have a facility here with somebody who would help you get your business license, and this is what you need to do, and this is how you go about getting your business license, but just giving him a task that they know he can't complete. You know what I mean? And he is here asking for help. I have 6 children. I lost my job as a garbage collector, and or we could give you a job to collect garbage in the community, but you have to go get a business license, knowing that he can't. Knowing that he can't. Okay, so that's what's been happening a lot. Yeah, we helping. In parentheses, we could give you $3,000, and we know you don't work, and we know that nobody will allow you to rent their apartment, and we know that only the very rich so far have been able to go back to Abaco and rebuild. And like they say, minimum rent is $1,500. So, but we helping. And we gave you all a stipend and a deadline. Yeah. Okay. Lanique?
I just wanted to point out what I had read because I didn't understand it. I don't know if y'all can help me. With the Tropical Gyro crowdfunding, when they did it with RWAC X, I see where now they're saying they only raised a certain amount in physical cash, and now they're waiting on the people who pledge what they was gonna give to turn in the money. And for me, is that something that we always did? Because I didn't realize you could have pledged to say you can give this money.
Well, it's our crowdfunding platform is new. The laws just came out in probably 2021 or 2022, so it's new.
But a part of it is you can pledge because I didn't know.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing as GoFundMe. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. It's crowdfunding, GoFundMe, but GoFundMe is only for Americans and Canadians because Uncle Sam got to get his cut, right?
Okay.
And so about Alive, if you go on the Alive site, they have the platform where that's where I've seen persons pledging, because of course all the civic organizations have some type of fundraising thing that they're doing, and that's where I've seen some persons pledge. But you actually have to go and collect the money, and a lot of times, like right after hurricanes and stuff, countries want to sound good and they say, oh, we're gonna give $1 million to Haiti. Haiti never get it. You know what I mean? And so that's what happens when you allow people to pledge. So if it's not, and our X is new, and so I guess if it doesn't work, then they will stop. If they don't get to collect the money, then they'll stop allowing you to pledge. And I guess you'll have to take out your credit card or your debit card right then and pay right up front. I'm just assuming. I don't know if somebody else will have some more information.
Well, they say they gave them 30 days to pay this, to pay the I guess the amount that they pledge. But I don't know. I mean, I know how some payments go.
Yeah, a lot of people just did it to look good for their name to be out there to say, oh, I pledged this $1 million or $100,000, or they may have even gotten friends. Listen, just call in and pledge. You don't really never have to give the money. At least if people see you pledging, they'll call in and they'll think it's a successful thing to do, and they'll invest. So you never know what the strategy is.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Latoya, that's it. You had anything else, Latoya? No,
ma'am. Sorry.
Okay, good. Okay, so very good. I hope Geraldo could come back and give us his 5 cents, because I know he was eager to sign up. Hopefully he'll be able to share before the end of the class. Okay, there he is. Go ahead, Geraldo.
Well, after seeing, good afternoon, everybody. Well, after seeing Miss Roll and Miss Knowles, I actually started to spoke about it. Well, I did also attend the virtual lunch meeting with Baco Bahamas.
So you don't want your 5 cents then? Give it to them then.
I'm going to give my 5 cents. It was a very
okay, go ahead.
It was a very informative meeting with the 3 panelists: Jacqueline Hunt, Natasha Roll Bastian, and Nisha Pender. It was very, Kessler Pender, my bad. But it was very informative for all of them. Basically, overall, for the whole seminar, is more of, are you ready to become a compliance officer? And can you actually put yourself in that seat and be able to enforce the laws within your financial institution or whatever institution you're working for?
And how did you feel afterwards?
I feel eager, very eager.
Okay.
Because in the role I play, basically enforcing the law in the whole Commonwealth of the Bahamas relates to financial crimes. Just like what Ms. Pin is saying, you basically, as a compliance, you basically is like a police officer within your organization you work for. But you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful of your ethics and your integrity, and so how well you could be able to maintain your reputation within your company and not just be the bully within your organization. So everybody's basically in the business of making money, but you can't like try to force too much rules on these people.
Right. And so you want to be diplomatic in all your responses. You want to be approachable. You don't want people to feel like they can't talk to you.
Yes.
And then you want to be like accountable. Like even if if somebody brings a situation before you, you want to follow up and tell them that at this time there was nothing you could do about it, or so give people a response.
Yeah, give it input.
Yeah.
Not just say, okay, we find this problem. Let me see what my supervisor. At least do the research for yourself and then give your feedback to the supervisor. At least the supervisor will know that you actually keeping up to date with the industry.
Right. So very good, Geraldo. I am very pleased that you attended, and I hope I'm glad that you are eager, and hope that you make time to attend more. The Compliance Day is, I think, October the 3rd. So you'll look into that. When is it? The 6th or the 3rd? You know, or you don't know? It's in October.
The MLRO day?
Yeah, the MLRO day. They changed it to Compliance Day.
I asked about it, but she didn't have any further information, but she did say that it's a paid event.
Okay, so have any of you spoken to your organization and asked if they would be willing for you to pay? Have you spoken to your MLRO and just said that I'm interested if you're attending? Could you take me as a mentor?
I spoke to my MLRO. Like I said, I'm the branch internal controller and local compliance officer at my institution. And I said, I think what she said was she was going to let 2 persons in my role, myself included, be a part. Now they were trying to get 1 or 2 more persons to attend, but they had to get approval. So it's looking up though.
Okay, excellent. Very good. Very good.
My MLRO said she'll get back to me, child. So, I know if I could go, but we'll see.
Yeah.
When I go to work tomorrow, I will find out from our legal counsel when they have this, when they're going to plan for this MLRO day.
It's in October. I think, I'll
and this is the one with the FIU just put on, right?
No, this was Barco. Barco puts this out.
Okay. So I'll find out from them, when exactly is it?
Yeah, let's see.
October 6th.
It's October 6th. Yeah, it's October 6th.
I spoke with my MLRO. I'm the company's compliance officer as well at the credit union. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see more. You definitely should be there. You definitely should be there.
I agree.
Right. Okay, guys. Well, y'all on the right track. And like I said, approach Barco as a student. There's an application. You send in your CV and you fill out a form. And your company should be paying for 2 or 3 memberships for you. So they should pay for you to be a member. I think it's $200 per year of Barco, but the student fee may be cheaper. So just go on their website and see if you can get some information, or you could speak to somebody.
The student fee is $100.
Okay, it's 100. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So look into that. And even if your company doesn't pay it, I still feel it's a good investment.
Yeah, luckily my company advised me to sign up for the Barco, the Barco membership, and I've done so, and they sent me an email. So I think it should be coming along the way soon.
Okay, excellent. Very good. Very good. Okay, so chapter 3, just an overview to make sure that we caught all the important parts. Of course, we know about the U.S. Patriot Act, and normally U.S. law is for the United States, and any other country law is for their country. However, when George Bush was president, he talked continuously about weapons of mass destruction, and he updated the Patriot Act, and he included fighting foreign official corruption, policing operations of multinational financial institutions, and limiting the activities of offshore banking centers. Right? He wanted to limit our activities. And so what the Patriot Act does is they set up the corresponding bank, which is the system where we send wires. There's a US corresponding bank, and then there's a European corresponding bank. Most of the times persons just have a US corresponding bank, but because the US has become so restrictive, persons have, or organizations have European correspondent bank. However, laws were changed in 2018 all around. It wasn't only the Bahamas that was deficient. Switzerland was deficient, the EU was deficient, so everybody basically have the same laws. But if you use a US correspondent bank, they have all transfers set up to hit the Fed. And so, which is their Federal Reserve, which is like our central bank. And so once that money hits the Fed, that means that they can charge you in a US court. Okay. And so if you want a corresponding banking relationship, and then, like I said, in the offshore world, nobody walks into the bank and says, I want to send a wire. Everybody just sends an email and said, wire this money to CIBC, wire this money to pay my children's school fees or to pay my staff. And so all those wires hit the US Fed. And so therefore, through the Patriot Act, they can prosecute even if you are in the Bahamas, okay? The US dollar also has an extraterritorial arm, which means once your country accepts US dollars, which 195, I think there's 204 countries or 205 countries in the world, and 195 except the US dollar. The US dollar too has an extraterritorial arm that allows the US to come into your country and enforce their law. And they can seize information. They can, what all can they do? Section 319 of the Patriot Act allows US courts to seize funds in a US account if those funds are held for a non-US bank, which proceeds of unlawful activity. This means that if a foreign bank, which would be the Bahamas, any royal bank in the Bahamas would be a foreign bank, has an interbank account in the US, which is a covered financial institution, the funds shall be deemed to have been deposited into the interbank account in the US, and any restraining order, seizure warrant, or arrest warrant regarding the funds may be served on the covered financial institution. And let me just give you a recent example. Of course, we know that a very good philanthropist, what's his name, Adrian Fox, was considered a fugitive by the US government. And so, our good prime minister wrote him a letter of recommendation and said, please don't consider him a fugitive. He's a good philanthropist. He's done so much for the country, blah, blah, blah. Even though his counterparty has spent 10 years in jail for this human trafficking, give him a little slap on the wrist and let him go. And so suppose the US had said, let's extradite Adrian Fox and freeze all his money. And would the prime minister have protected him? Back in the day, they used to say they was protecting 90 Nose or the white major. And so therefore, if countries say, oh, no, we cannot send this person, this person is doing a lot for our country, we're not gonna arrest him, we're not gonna seize his money. There are some countries that do protect their citizens. The US would have been able to, I guess, come in, seize and do whatever they needed to do if the Bahamas did not want to turn over Adrian Fox. So Geraldo, you work at the FIU. What you think about that? Geraldo, you there?
That's corruption, ma'am.
That's corruption that the US can come in and do that?
No, I talk about like the prime minister writing on behalf of a fugitive.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I just use that as a. I mean, when it happened, but yeah, but yeah, if Yeah, so the U.S. would have, if these countries want to protect fugitives, or like how Russia is, and I think the lady went home, the NBA star. Did she
did go? I thought the date she was to serve time.
No,
Yeah,
she's
so
still
they
locked
gave
up.
her 9 years.
Served 9 years.
They gave her 9 years, but Russia wants to negotiate for a terrorist.
But the US doesn't negotiate with.
Yeah, but they negotiating.
I gotta look further into that.
There's a journalist as well as she is serving 9 years, and they are going to send a notorious terrorist back to Russia in exchange for her as well as the journalist.
But my thing was, didn't she actually have the drugs? So why not just let her serve her time?
Well,
it's the amount she had.
She had.
It wasn't much.
No,
but
she didn't have drugs. She had an
I-
oil that was used for medical purposes, but she had a doctor's prescription or note for that. It wasn't drugs. It was just the OTC oil that she used for her
you know the
injury.
new thing that come
No,
out
it
now
was
that
the
people
amount
just
of-
it,
It was the vape it was pen the she had.
yeah, the vape.
Right.
She had a vape.
Vape pen.
Yeah. She
But
had a
if-
vape.
I think she got locked up for the amount she had. It wasn't the fact that she had the oil. It was
Yeah,
how
but-
much she was traveling with.
No, but she had a prescription.
Yeah, that's
She
still
had
count
been
in Russia,
arrested.
apparently.
Yeah, so they did
still
it
lock
so
her
that
up.
there had be an exchange with the US, and like the US says, they don't negotiate with terrorists, but apparently they
but-
negotiating.
but-
So I'm very
but-
surprised.
But Ms. Bullet, if
Mm-hmm.
this was the average US citizen who got locked up in Russia for that same thing, you think the US would actually negotiate on that poison?
No, because there's a teacher. There's a teacher there who met a Russian guy online, and they apparently had relations. And when she woke up, her bag, some money or something was missing out of her bag. And when she approached him about it, he hit her and she hit him back. And she was arrested for assault. And she's serving like 10 years. And so
Wow.
her family has come up and said, please, if y'all could get this lady out and this reporter, y'all get my sister out. Because this guy hit her first and this guy stole from her. So she in jail. So she isn't the only American there.
I guess they're more inclined to get the athlete out.
Correct.
Yeah.
But
Over an educator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The States is a funny place.
Yeah.
Oh,
but see,
But the educators them in the US facing the same thing what educators facing here in the
Hey.
Bahamas.
Okay.
yeah, they
don't really care
they
about
treat
them.
them like babysitters here. We babysitters, we oh nobody. Okay, but okay, so just so you would understand that, one question may ask you, if the U.S. Patriot Act, they valid in the Bahamas? Yes, it is. Even though we are a Bahamian institution, if we have a corresponding banking relationship, they have rights to come in and seize, okay, through the section 3.19. Okay, and then it went on to talk about sanctions, and again, sanctions have been put on as embargoes, and they're used to encourage a change in behavior, to apply pressure, or as an enforcement tool when international peace and security has been threatened. And then we looked at our sanctions list. Did y'all see that part last week? Was that clear? Where we went on to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and we looked at the various sanctions that the Bahamas has?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it was a little blurry, but we got the gist
Yeah,
of
y'all
it.
get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there are targeted sanctions, and the measures applied to targeted sanctions are embargoes on exporting or supplying arms. And like I said, long before Russia was completely sanctioned as an entire country, every day, if you sent school fees or salaries to Russia, it would go through. But if you wanted to buy like lumber or timber, there was a sanction or lumber and timber in Russia for a period. And so if you work in the offshore world, you have to check to see if it's, you may say, oh no, this country isn't sanctioned, but there might be an embargo on a particular supply. So you have to check, okay? There may be travel bans on named individuals. There may be bans on exporting equipment, okay? And then the categories, and like I said, this question is always on the exam. What are the categories? And there are 5 categories, and there's counterterrorism. And an example of counterterrorism is the Libya destruction of the Pan Am flight. It's resolution 748, where the UN put a sanction on Libya because they felt it was terrorism. They destroyed, they felt like somebody blew up the Pan Am flight. I think it killed over 100 persons, and that was many, many years ago. And then there is a sanction on Iran for conflict resolution, and that's resolution 2231. There's a sanction on Rwanda for protection of civilians. Of course, their president has been impeached. A lot of persons have been leaving Rwanda, and so in order to prevent whatever military is harming the persons there, making them feel like they have to flee, there's a resolution 1216 and resolution 918, which protects the Rwandan civilians. Then non-proliferation. Of course, Kim Jong-un and Korea, as many, as well as Iran, proliferation of chemical weapons. So there are sanctions on those countries for proliferation. And then democratization. There's a 940 resolution on Haiti because of democratization. Okay, so the categories are very important. And then lastly, on sanctions, designing the framework. How do you comply? What do you do? You want documented policies and procedures. You want to define the roles and the responsibilities of the persons who should be watching out, the onboarding team. Are they checking before they onboard a customer? Do they know that it's their responsibility to alert if there's a sanction against a country or a person? You want to raise awareness, for a very long time. Sanctions did not fluctuate, but after we got Donald Trump, and he wanted to talk to all the terrorists around the world and all of the persons who thought they should, they're oligarchs and they run the world. And so the sanctions started to fluctuate. You want to make sure they're being monitored. So when you do the account reviews, if you're high, medium, or low, if you're world checking somebody each year, when you do their review, you want to also do their sanction check. Person should know which sanctions list you use, okay, and how often they are updated. And then you want to know reporting requirements and requirements for reviewing sanctions related processes. Then you want an assurance check. You want somebody to investigate that, hey, at account opening, Bria did indeed check the sanctions list. Because you want a date that at this particular date, Kim Jong-un was not on the sanctions list. However, Donald Trump is no longer president, so he's back on, so stuff like that you want to be able to document. Okay, and like I said, on the exam, pretty easy to answer the sanctions questions. Once you can explain the 5 categories, can explain, what would you do to put a sound framework in place and give 1 or 2 examples, you should be okay. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, so the next 4 weeks, we'll be talking about risks and this risk-based approach and what this means and really what we need to do. And basically, chapter 4, we covered most of this in intro, but so most of you should just need a refresher. The very first recommendation in the 40 recommendations says countries should assess their risks. And once they assess their risks, they need to put controls in place to protect against the risks associated within their country. Okay, and so if countries need to assess their risk, I think there are 3 levels, then the organization needs to assess their risk. Okay, so now regulators are risk rating organizations high, medium, or low. And then of course, the organization risk rates their client. Okay, so depending on what the country, the types of products and services that the country offers, there are international regulators like the Basel Committee and Transparency International that risk rate each country. So we want to look at, first of all, the Basel Committee, and we looked at this before. So can everybody see the screen?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
I think you have to make it
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, yeah, so we're familiar with this because we looked at this in the intro. And of course, we know that the Bahamas right here, that's our score, 6.46, okay? And so that makes, and this is the Basel Committee being the international regulator saying that this is what our score is, right? And so, of course, like I said, no country wants to be high risk because if you are deemed high risk, you would have a lot of banks, institutions, countries saying that we do not do business with high risk countries. Of course, we see Haiti right there, completely red, high risk, okay? And the legend, or when you go to these various regulated sites, you want to look at their legend so you would know how to read what they're saying. So basically everywhere that's green is low, yellow it's medium, and then red is high risk. So we like borderline 6.46, one step to 7, and we'll have a lot of reputational risk. A lot of countries won't do business with us. So one of our issues is that the Bahamas, this is our risk assessment, and we just made it mandatory in law in 2018. And so the last time we did a risk assessment was 2015, 2016. And if you look at it, this is the table of contents for the entire Bahamas. So it just shows you how gravely deficient this risk assessment is. And at this time, 2015 and 2016, the gaming board or the number services businesses weren't even licenses yet. So there's just minimal information there about them. This is 36 pages for the entire Bahamas. So we didn't have industries like the law firms, the accounting firms, and the real estates even being regulated until 2019. And so definitely no information in there about the what you call them, the DMBFBs or the non-financial businesses. So each, from the Basel Committee, each country then sends in their information, their completed risk assessment to the international regulator. And this is the regulator's methodology. And so there is a question on the exam about the methodology and how it works. Because a lot of times, even if in our institutions, we have a risk rating form, we do not know how it works. We do not know where we get the country risk rating from. We do not know where we get the where they provide services, that rating from. So you need to understand methodology, okay? Because of course, nobody is going to say or accept that my country is high risk. They're gonna wanna know. And so this is the methodology. It tells you when you do your risk rating for your country, 65% is the quality of your framework, okay? And here's that FATF Mutual Evaluation Report right up at the top. And of course, remember, we were deficient in 22 of the 40 recommendations. So of course, if we did not update those 22, we would have been further deficient, right? Was no way we could come from medium high. We were definitely being going on to high. Okay, and the second domain is bribery and corruption. And of course, we looked at our corruption perception index, and we spoke about that. And of course, we know that our corruption perception, where I said, and this is another international regulator, Transparency International. We see right there, our corruption perception index is 64. Now, their legend says anything below 45 is high risk. And you should aim to have at least 100. So we sitting pretty good with corruption perception. And of course, we know our theme for this year with the Egmont Group is corruption and bribery. So we were paying attention to this to see that because our politicians were being brought before the courts for the first time, will our corruption perception index drop, or will it remain the same? Now, for so far, we've brought 5 politicians before the courts. none have been charged. And so in the last couple of years, I think we were at 65, it just dropped to 64. If we continue to have politicians not being brought before the court and corruption is out there, then we will have a problem. Also, if we have like the president or the prime minister being impeached, I think all of that, or if he is not impeached and he is seen to be corrupt, then we will have a very low rating. Now, I told this story before, the issue with the corruption perception index is 1 week I was able to send wires to Russia and Madagascar. And the next week I was told we don't do business with countries that have a corruption perception index less than 30. So as we can see right under the Bahamas, Bangladesh is 26. So that means if you were born in Bangladesh, you can't, our correspondent bank will not allow us to send you a wire, and therefore it doesn't make sense that you have an account with us. Okay, and so you'll see many countries that actually are 30 or below. Okay, and mostly it's the African countries. Cameroon is 27, and we had customers there that we paid salaries for. They worked on a yacht. One of our clients owned a yacht, and we were unable to pay those salaries. Like 1 week we paid it, the next week, nowhere in the world they were able to send money to Cameroon because the country's corruption perception index was below 30. Okay, so all of these numbers matter. Okay, and just like with the Bahamas, if we go to high risk, you will have countries that say, oh, we can't send a wire to the Bahamas. Okay, and we had, and I told this story too to the persons who are in intro, we pay $100,000 a year for our trading desk to sit in Switzerland. We have the traders here in the Bahamas. Okay, and so we said, of course, we want to save this $100,000. We approached, what was it, Morgan Stanley in New York. We tried to open an account with them, and they simply said that we cannot open up an account for you because we don't do business with high-risk countries. And so I said, but we're not a high-risk country. And they said, we'll prove it. They went to the Basel Committee. They said, the last time your risk rating was done was in 2015, 2016. This is 2019. You need to show us an updated assessment where you're still medium low or medium high, because the perception is that you're high risk. Okay, Shauna, you have a question? Go ahead.
Hi, Ms. Bullard. I wanted to know that number. Does it, how often are we assessed?
Every year.
Every year.
No, you mean for bribery and corruption perception?
Right. With like, let's say this year, we're at 64, and if next year we drop to, God forbid, 20, that means that we wouldn't be able to do, people wouldn't be able to do business with us, correct?
Some countries will say that. Now, with this methodology now, remember, it's supposed to be high, medium, or low. And so if your country is high, you are assessed every year. Medium, every 2 years, every 3 years. And so they're trying to get all of that to fall in line. But they have countries like us that have not been assessed since 2015, 2016. And so they are, I don't know if they assess it every year, but they do update their list every year to confirm whether your CPI index and your bribery index is still the same. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, that's clear. Thank you.
Yeah, so once our risk assessment goes in, and if we look at the update sheet from our mutual evaluation agreement, it says that in March 2022, we are going to submit our final risk assessment to the international regulators. And I've been all over online asking all my colleagues, we have not seen an update. Well, you know, the government just changed and the players had to change. And so now there's no sign of us submitting it. Okay, and so, right, they're probably updating us every year until we get assessment in and a final rating, and then we will go on to probably every 2 years, because we should be medium. We have to be medium. Okay, and let's just look at our bribery index. Now, I was reading an article, and I want to show you Bahamas ranked 81st in the world, right? And this was in 2020. Now the bribery index is from Trace International, another international regulator. And when I look, the closer you are to 100, or no, I think the further away you are from 100, the less susceptible you are to bribery. Now here we are at 70. So I don't know, that should mean that we are doing better. But that article in 2020 said that we are at 81. Now we are at 70. But let me just look for their legend to make sure it is possible to view the results. Okay, this allows compliance professionals to tailor their compliance, risk score. Yeah, because Denmark and Norway always is #1 for the least corrupt in the world. All I have to say is these prime ministers must be sitting on the board. So if Denmark is ranked at the second least country in the world susceptible to bribery, then us jumping, yeah, the closer to 1, it means that you're not corrupt. Okay, and so the closer you are, I guess they are saying you are the 70th country, you're at 194. Yeah, because we'll see North Korea is 94. Yeah, so the closer you are to 100. So that means we would have been doing better because we were at 81, now we are at 70. Or it could mean that some other countries have done worse. How about that? Okay.
So Miss hold on. Bullet. Yeah, so the numbers listed here, these are the most current ones, right?
Yeah, this 2022.
Okay, I start of 2022. Because I remember you said a couple minutes ago, you said back in 2020, it was a little bit higher, right?
Yeah, it was
in
81.
the 80s.
Yeah. So it either means that we did better or these countries did worse. Okay, but let me just give you an instance about Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico is a U.S. outlying island, and when there was Hurricane Maria, Donald Trump did not give Puerto Rico support. And Puerto Rico had a CPI index of 65, and which in our own is 64, corruption perception. And Puerto Rico just dropped off the map completely. Like they didn't even have rating. And so we had a Puerto Rican bank and we did all the wires for their customers. So we were very concerned. We was like, hey, can we do business? And when we tried to send money to our correspondent bank, they said that at this time they're waiting on the rating from the regulator and they can't do any transactions. So Puerto Rico was actually on hold. And that was because the mayor was on TV speaking out against Donald Trump, saying that how he wouldn't help and the electricity was off and she was doing her best. And so it doesn't have to be money launderers or terrorist financiers or the infiltrate the system. That Hurricane Maria caused them to say that her president isn't giving her support. She might be desperate and go to be bribed by a drug dealer or a terrorist financier, and so we dropped her rating. And as you can see, their rating is 31. So obviously, bribery rate is very low. But no, 31 isn't bad. 31 isn't bad out of that's closer to 1, yeah, just like the rest of them, yeah. But during that year of Hurricane Maria, her ratings just like there was no rating, and like I say, all the payments for Puerto Rico was stagnant. Okay, and so when we had Hurricane Dorian, Hubert Minnis was placed in the same position where, you know, he was desperate for money. Abaco and Freeport needed a lot of help. And the people were living in gyms for a very long time. And, you know, people were jeering him and saying, oh, they can't make a decision. Or he had a conference where he did go out and ask for donations and stuff like that. But, you know, internationally, we were being watched to make sure it wasn't the drug dealers that, you know, gave us money and that he didn't become desperate. Okay, so be very careful of that, like when, in support of your country when natural disasters happen, because all of that can cause you to be taken off the map financially as well. Okay, and so the book goes on to talk about assessing money laundering and terrorist financing risks, explaining the methodology, and methodology just means how does it work? You put together a form and you say, I want a risk rate. This country should be able to, if they come out as high risk, they should be able to say, well, no, we are not high risk, and explain why, or fix some stuff before they submit their final assessment. And we have fixed some stuff. And of course, I think we talked about the sand dollar, where one of the categories that makes you high risk is that you're very cash intensive. And so the governor has put the sand dollar in place, and it's not a cryptocurrency, it's a digital asset. Okay, and so for you who don't know how to use a sand dollar, please use it. It'll help make the Bahamas less cash intensive. If we are high risk, the government might insist that that's all we use. Okay, so please learn about it so you are familiar in case we have no choice but to use the sand dollar. Somebody had a question? No?
I was going to say a lot of companies don't even accept the sand dollar. I don't think if they're trying to be up to par with the central bank with it.
Yeah, they don't accept it yet, but it was created so that the country as a whole will not be seen as cash intensive. And they strategically placed it through the money services businesses, so they are not as cash intensive. Okay, so they don't accept it yet because they just they're not aware of it. Okay, but he could make it mandatory that everybody, I think he's put it in quite a number of the unions. Anybody working the union, I think it's Teachers and Allied Workers Union that it's mandatory in now. Anybody working the union? Or is it national workers? I know I have somebody working in the union in Freeport where they rolled it out. And they're trying to make it like popular. And then there's a lot of information out there on the central bank website about the sand dollar. Okay, so just read up on it so you're familiar. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Lynn.
Okay, good. Okay, so then the book goes on to talk about identifying risk. There is risk identification. This is the company's exposure to risk. It requires external knowledge of the market and the company. And so normally companies would complete like a SWOT analysis. And the SWOT analysis, you list like strengths of the company, weaknesses, opportunities, and then threats. And then from that SWOT analysis, you decide, what risks you want to expose your company to. And then there is risk analysis. Of course, that's where you risk rate your portfolio, high, medium, or low. What percentage of high risk customers we can have? Are we going to do business with PEPs? Yes or no? Then risk evaluation. Again, companies are now being risk rated. And so they don't want their company to be risk rated aside, because then that company would be subjected to enhanced due diligence. And of course, we know enhanced due diligence is at least 10 more steps than simplified due diligence, and nobody wants to do the extra work. And there's sometimes a cost attached to that enhanced due diligence. And so companies are trying to ensure that they are low or medium as well. Okay, and now the regulator is suggesting that they tie your audit to your risk rating. So if you're high risk, you'll be audited every year. So everybody knows the audit is take like 9 months to a year. Could you imagine that you'd be in audit for every year? That would drive people crazy. Okay, and so nobody overall wants to be high risk. Okay, and so risk treatment, this includes risk control, mitigation, risk avoidance, risk transfer. And again, if you work in, if your regulator is the Securities Commission, then you have to have an indemnity insurance in place for your staff. And that means that their signatures are indemnified. They are signing on behalf of the bank. And so if there is a fraud and there's no negligence, then the insurance pays to cover that fraud. They call that indemnity insurance. Okay, and it goes on to talk about a control library, and it lists various controls that you should have in place, regular customer reviews, KYC controls. Of course, there's an onboarding team, and then the onboarding reviewers, accepts KYC and should be reviewing it, verifying it's correct, and then passing it on for the account to be approved. There should be a threshold policy where depending on your level, you have a limit. You could sign up to $500,000 or $1,000, whatever your limit is. And depending on what position you hold, there should be an escalation and an exit process. If we want to put PEPs on our books, then we have to get an approval from either committee or from the board. There should be role-based training. So entry-level staff should have some training. Mid-level staff should have training. Everybody should have AML training, even the consultants and the board. But depending on which level you are, it should not be every year. They just telling you about the laws and SDRs, but training, pertinent to the risks associated with the department that you're in. Okay, and that's a control library. Any questions? Because you're very quiet. You're scaring me. You all sleep or you all awake?
You're right here, darling.
You're right. Okay, but you're
Yes,
following this in terms of risk?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's a
Okay.
lot of information, but I'm following.
Right. And don't worry, but trying to digest all of it, because like I said, we have 4 chapters. So in your organization, have your rolled out the 3 levels, 3 lines of defense in regards to risk. The first line of defense being the front line and the managers. The second line of defense being compliance, and the third line of defense being audit. Have you all rolled that out in your institutions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and everybody knows which line they are on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, sorry. Yeah, the book goes on to talk about using a checking mechanism, because a risk assessment, again, is only as good as the day that it's created. Okay, I always say that Ms. Bullitt is teaching this class now. The pandemic come, I gotta feed my children, pay my mortgage. I go out and commit a crime. Okay, but for administrative purposes, you will only reassess the person based on whether they are high, medium, or low. Okay, but you must check. And then you can sample, normally the compliance officer now, a lot of institutions are making compliance operational, which compliance should not be. And so a number of institutions have client reviews being done by compliance, which is completely wrong, because compliance should not know the customer better than the onboarding team or the sales team. Okay, so compliance should check 25% of the low and medium, and perhaps sign off on a completed review done by the sales or the onboarding team. I don't know why organizations expect compliance to know the customer better, but that's not right. Okay.
Ms. Bullard,
Yes.
can I add something there? Because I feel like in banking or commercial banks, I should say, because the duties that those onboarding officers have are so broad, I feel like they don't even have time to build that rapport with the customer. It's more so back office, because I find it happening in my branch a lot, where they are, where I'm supposed to be a blind, separate and apart unit, I'm not. I think it probably needs to be looked at again with the job description of that onboarding officer, that accounts officer, because half the time they can't build that rapport.
No, they have to. They are required to know your customer. Compliance does not speak to clients, correct?
I agree. They know
Okay,
the
so if we
customer
don't
at the-
speak to clients, how are we supposed to ask them questions? How are we supposed to know the customer? They just
they
gonna
know,
hire some more people.
boy, when that day come, Queenie
You
just
can-
like to come back.
Yeah, but you have to come because the basics of compliance is know your customer. Okay, compliance cannot speak to customers, so there's no way. We are not on the front line. We are not meeting with them. We are not engaging with them. How are we to know them better than the front line?
They know their customer based on the information they receive at onboarding. And after that, that's it.
That it can't be it because it's something called a statutory requirement is
Agreed.
monitoring.
Monitoring is done by, anyway, we can leave that alone because I don't
No,
want
but
to.
no, I just saying, no, but I'm just saying, so many institutions just have it wrong, and that's why there's
Right.
always a problem.
Right.
You cannot just know your client, you have to monitor. And so if some other, you on the road, you probably need a sales versus an administrative person. You can't have one person. So you have to have a salesman and assistant. The assistant then keeps, all the paperwork together and manageable. But you can't just say you on the front line, you talking to the customer every day. You don't have time to document. Or you don't want to ask the customer, who else you build that relationship to customer? You're supposed to be a customer friend. It's supposed to be relationship banking. Who else can get the information but you have to do it. You just have to do it. And it's just training. And we have not trained our staff properly for so long till now we just operating backwards.
Well, I do
Basic
know
is
that
knowing your customer.
when central bank had come in, they did state that the desk of myself was too operational. So we have put one or two things in place. I'm excited to see if it pans out, especially doing reviews on our high-risk customers. I'm really interested in seeing, but for right now, the way that it's set up, especially with the staffing issues, it's not working.
Okay, okay. May I suggest that you all need a structure in place?
Sorry?
Okay? You all need a structure.
I mean, we put something there and it's beautiful in a euphoric world, but I just don't see it working.
Okay, how many customers you have?
I am in a smaller unit. And
Shayna.
Sorry?
No, I was gonna say, Ms. Carver at a slower branch.
Right,
but
I'm in a
branch
smaller
like
unit.
where I'm at. It's
so Lanique would be that
lot.
onboarding officer, and
Okay.
I would be the compliance officer in the branch. But because her unit is much bigger and the flow of customers in her branch would be excessive, they don't have time for that KYC.
Okay, but let me tell you, there's no one size fits all approach.
Agreed.
You're trying to put a small stockings on a queen size.
And I think that's what the issue is.
Yeah, but so this risk-based approach depends on your metrics, your number of customer versus the number of staff. And if you don't even know how much customers you have, there's no way you know how much staff you need. Okay, and so there's supposed to be 1-to-2 ratio. One staff member to every 2 customers. I might be saying it wrong. Okay, so if you are a senior person, you should have 50 to 75 high-risk customers. If you are a junior person, you should have 100 to 125 low-risk customers. And it just really depends on how operational they are. If you have an account where you have to pay salaries every week, that's very operational.
Right.
Okay, so you only can have probably 5 of them, and so you all don't have the proper metrics in place, because if you have 800 customers, you need 8 account officers and 8 assistants.
No.
Exactly, Gio.
Euphoric.
You know it ain't like
Euphoric.
that.
But that's how it works.
You know it ain't like that.
There's no risk-based approach here. It's a one-size-fits-all approach.
At our heavy branch, I would like the person that does what Ms. Cartwright does at her branch. I think she have about 100 and something plus.
No, I have at my small unit 100
100
and
and something, right?
without including its signatories. And at her branch, she has an excess of 200 high-risk customers.
Okay, but no, that's again, we don't work in perfect, right? So it'll never be perfect. But like I said, if they are very operational, like companies and paying salaries every week, you can't have one person cannot know 200 people plus all the signatories. So you defeating the purpose right there and knowing your customer. The metrics are very important. Until you get it down on paper, you cannot prove why you need additional hands on board. This is risk. This, let me tell you, we went into a Fortune 500 company, which is Royal Bank Scotia or CIBC. We went into audit their compliance department. So we said, who did we get the risk assessment from? They say from GEO. We said, who did we get the risk ratings from? From GEO. Who did we get legal from? GEO. Everything we needed, get from GEO. So we said, is GEO the coordinator of this audit? They said, no. All of those functions are on GEO's desk.
So no separation of duties either.
Yes. So we said, okay, we have to have an emergency meeting. This audit will stop until you hire 3 senior persons to work along with GEO. And then we'll come back. You all can come audit us,
please.
You have 2 weeks to do it.
Hurry up.
Yeah, but the thing about it is you have to have the metrics in place. You have to have the numbers. The system should tell you how many customers you have. The system should tell you who is high, medium, or low. So you now need to start looking at the reports. Okay? The system should tell you what industries they are in. Okay?
Mind you, Miss Bullard, we have that, we have like, well, I mean, they started to roll it out. That's what they did at that training that they had the other day, Gia. And they started to train like the onboarding officers like me. They started to train us in it. But like I was telling my officers today, Diasmin could attest, we really just starting to actually look at it. And that's partly or mostly because we in this class. And so we know now we have to look at like if it's right, if it's high, low, medium, whatever. But
right.
That ain't straight across the board.
But see, that's why you need training, okay? And remember now, all these laws just passed in 2018, and a lot of people ain't trained yet, and companies being on board. Just remember, compliance don't make no money for the business, so they
I just was gonna say that
they invest in.
They
right?
ain't taking it serious.
But you have to start to say, listen, reputational risk, regulatory fines. You could get shut down. And so therefore, let's look at how many clients we're dealing with. And then when you could prove to them, we should at least have 10 persons, they say, oh, that's ludicrous, put it on paper. And so when audit comes in, this is what you say. We need 10 persons, we only have 5. Look at the numbers, okay? And in the offshore world, we had the fight too. If we had Asian desk, we had a European desk, we had a Latin America desk, again, because that's the only way you pick up with patents. Because one Chinese can do something and it can make you question the next Chinese. But
Agreed.
If you only have one Chinese and one from Europe, it's difficult for you to pick up a patent. So that's why I say in the retail world, all of y'all work for automotive companies, all of y'all work for banks. Like, you have to put a structure in place, or it's impossible for you to know your customer. It's impossible for you to pick up a patent. You have to do it. And it can't be one generic box and whoever available go help that customer. No, I need to always help this customer. So I will know that Edison Sumner account for cryptocurrency. And so when he asks me to buy a BMW, I'll be like, but there's a cryptocurrency account, right?
Agreed.
That's the only way you know. The structure is and it's like the institutions are good at the major stuff, the remedial stuff, out the door. Okay, so you're running around with a chicken with no head. There's no way for you to know every customer. No way. Put the structure in place and your lives will be so much easier. Then you could pick up on who doing what. You have to have a preparer and a checker. It sounds like the checker checking the checker. If you too operational, Gia used to check her. How
I
you could
am
be doing
the
the work and
everything.
checking? Yeah, I see the same thing. You have to have a 4-eye check. Okay, all of this is risk. And this is the controls. Remember now, recommendation 1, identify the risk, put controls in place. Okay, your control is that I have a verifier and a preparer. I have somebody who's qualified. I have somebody who has the experience. Okay, I have proper segregations of duties. If you open up accounts, you don't, if you collect information, then you don't approve. And this is how we will, you know, mitigate risk. You can't eliminate it. These hackers and scammers, they smarter than us. They know that we overwhelmed. They know that we underpaid. They know that we disgruntled. They know that we don't have a structure in place.
That's true.
Okay, please, like I say, start, like I say, this 2022, the laws changed in 2018. Only poor people is go to jail. I don't know how much money you'll have.
I always tell them I don't have it because those values are high.
And Wayne Monroe, you ain't even a lawyer no more to win on a technicality. You only get the seal.
Muriel, you got that right.
Okay, and he is telling you bring 20,000 up front.
For the retainer.
Yeah, the retainer is 20,000. So
are you serious?
Please, no, please, y'all take this seriously.
Well,
what you do today will protect you for tomorrow. Start to put a structure in place. You have to know your customer. You are required. That's your duty. You can't know 400 or 500 people. Impossible. Okay? And then again, medium and high, medium and low, you have to do that as the account officer so you could pick up what changed. Brave David started to get married. Okay, now there's high risk. Yes, compliance can sign off on the high risk, but compliance should not be doing any review because the front office is required to know the customer. Compliance is the second eye. And if you're taking advantage of your second eye, then you diminish the whole purpose of having a checker. The checker checking the checker.
That sounds good, boy.
Okay, but if y'all don't do it, I can't even see y'all being handcuffed across the TV no more. I gotta come down to the court to see y'all. All right, y'all better take it seriously. Y'all ain't watch Dirty Money, eh? Gia, you watch Dirty Money?
I watched The Laundromat, but I don't remember Dirty Money.
I watch it.
Watch Cartel Bank, HSBC, and the Mexican drug lords, and even watch on what Volkswagen defrauded the whole world because they had a system nobody knew how to use.
Emissions, yeah.
Okay, there you go. These things for awareness, all right? Gone are the days when it's business as usual. You better have your email where you advise your manager that you saw this gap or you made this suggestion and your manager didn't put it through and print that email out and keep that.
Well, that is what I try to do. I always keep a paper trail, and if it's where I have to reach out to the customer myself,
you can't. Why are you saying that? That's why I'm locking you up right now.
I got to be honest, though.
No, don't ever even say that.
She looking up her own self.
I gotta be honest.
Here in jail. You and women's
oh my God, you have a sweat.
Cut the recording off.
Walking down.
Must look good in orange.
You want me to
Mom, don't say that, Mama.
I wish you would audit us so that they would actually take it serious because
Chia, calm down.
Yeah, we call you offline.
Fix some stuff, Gia. Fix some stuff. You don't say that. Because you weren't doing that. Not with a compliance title.
I was using that for reference purposes.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, whatever suggestion you remember that you are just to advise, right? And so you send this to your manager, and if they don't do anything about it, when people getting round up and going home, you have your little email to say, well, I was always taught once I escalate to my manager, it's no longer my business.
Agreed.
I am only here to suggest and recommend. I don't make the decisions. Okay, but just protect yourself.
Miss Bird, that little do.
Okay,
I
ice
just
going
touch
on.
a little
Yeah.
do.
Okay. All right. But verifying steps. Miss Bullet used to, after all this training, I used to do the Family Island. So I call somebody in Harbor Island and I say, hi, you attended AML training? You open an account? What were the last 4 accounts that you opened? Were they high, medium, or low? So you verify that persons understand what was trained, what was taught in the training, you check sustainability, and then you, can you send me 2 of those files so I can make sure that both you and compliance did what you ought to do, after the training. Okay, so you want to monitor all of that is as checking to make sure that everything that you do is effective. Okay, because a lot of times, like I sitting here, I talking, a lot of y'all ain't talking back to me, y'all ain't even hearing me, right? So we used to have to do assurance calling to make sure that, excuse me, you heard me and you put it in, applied it to your position and you understand your function. Because that's another big problem that a lot of us are carrying out functions that are not on our job description. Okay. And again, when we come in the audit, that's the first thing that we ask for your resumes. We want to check that you have sufficient experience and sufficient qualification to carry out the function that, on your job description. Okay, so if there are functions that are missing, again, send an email and say, this function I carry out, it's not on my job description. Can you please list it? Okay, you want to make sure that you are only accountable for the job that you are doing. Okay, and that you are trained. And if you are not trained, upgrade yourself. Okay, and so definitely, Gia, if you're holding a compliance title, I expect to see you in ICA. Okay, this is just a first step for you. You can't be in the compliance department and not be fully qualified. Okay, because that's the first thing that they are going to use against you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, good. So it says regular review should be conducted on the risk-based approach. Regulators focus on what a company documents about what it does. And that's how you are tested. They read your policy and procedure and they test you against the policy and procedure. And so therefore, if your policy and procedure is out of date, if it's missing a lot of information, you're bound to get written up. And again, the more audit notes you have, somebody is go home or somebody is get demoted or moved around. We feel like we need to put somebody in place because the policy and procedure even up to date. Okay, so make sure you know what your AML directive says. Make sure you know what your risk appetite says. Remember, the risk framework is threefold. It's risk appetite. Do we want to do business with PEPs? Do we not want to do business with PEPs? Do we want to do business with high-risk countries? Do we not want to do business with high-risk countries? Then it's the risk assessment. What is our operational risk, our reputational risk, our concentration risk? We had an account out of Antigua and Barbuda, and they had all of their money with us. And so our central bank said, if your bank was to fail, that bank would automatically fail. So that's too concentrated. So you can't have all your eggs in one basket. So they made them move 50% of their money out of our bank to another bank, just so that should we close down, they wouldn't be affected. They wouldn't lose all their money. Okay. And I see right now a union out of Eleuthera is liquidating now and asking persons to please come in and verify what amount of money should be on their account. Okay, so that union is closing down, and if they can't pay, all the money back, some people are going to lose. Okay, so you want to ensure that you understand your risk assessment and then risk rating. What type of customers do you have? What jurisdiction are they from? Like I know Scotiabank has heavy Atlantis. Okay, and so of course during the pandemic when all the hotels closed, that should have affected Scotiabank, because a big part of their portfolio is Atlantis employees. Okay, so who's in your appetite? How are they assessed? How are they risk rated? High, medium, or low? How is your business risk rated? High, medium, or low? Okay, so make sure that you understand recommendation 1. Make sure that you understand the risk framework. Make sure that you know who your regulator is and know the regulator's AML directive. Make sure you have a copy of your AML directive and take some time to identify if there are any gaps. Start with your function and make sure that you are doing what is written in your policy. And then if there's a gap, you can say, well, the regulator say, we should have a second piece of ID and we only have 1. Okay, all of that is important. Okay, any questions? No?
No, ma'am, not so far.
You're clear as mud. You all understand everything is what it says.
I had a question, but I
listen,
can't, I was writing
this
so much, I can't even find the paper, man.
Child, there's so much information you just share.
I might have to,
So right now
I
I'm
might have to
writing.
email it to you because I can't even find the paper no more.
Okay, but again, like I said, we have 4 classes of risk, and feel free next week and the week after we can talk some more about risk, just to make sure that we are all on the same page and we understand what this risk-based approach is all about.
Hi, Ms. Bullitt. I have a question before you leave. With the control library, it mentions MI/TF risk matrix. What are the matrix?
Money laundering / terrorist financing matrix. Yeah, so let me see if I can show you something. I can put some up on the something like this. You call this like a control library, right? And so it depends on y'all can see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it'll tell you the audit area. So all the functions that fall under compliance or compliance should be checking, it'll have listed here because this is be like 400 or 500 lines on this Excel sheet. So it tells you the audit area is compliant. They are checking account opening, ensure all new business relationships are within the bank's risk appetite. So that means we are going to look at every account that was open in which month is this, September, to make sure that if we say we don't have an appetite for PEPs, this was not a PEP. If we don't do business with Russia or with Latin America, the person wasn't from any of those countries, okay? And what would be the risk if we didn't do it? It would cause us reputational risk, okay? Then we give it how important is this in the control library, high, medium, or low, and monthly review, we do 100% of the accounts, we check every account. For operations under filing, you see we only check 25% of the accounts. Okay, so this would just be like a library that tells you all the steps for your risk checks that you are going to do monthly. Okay, and then when it says inherent risk, accounts are open without appropriate approvals, or accounts are open where they would be susceptible to money laundering, okay, or they are undesirable accounts because AML directive says if you are charged, we should not open up an account. So a matrix would just look something like this.
Oh, okay.
Or a control library would look something like
Sorry, Miss Bullard.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little note written down. You said the 5 categories of risk methodology. Now, I know things are worded a little bit different, but I wanted you to just touch on that for me. Even if you give me something where I could read. This is it here, right?
This is right here. This is the
Okay.
5 domains.
Okay.
Yeah, so domain 1 is the quality of your framework. Domain 2 is how corrupt and susceptible the bribery your country is. The financial transparency and standards.
Could you
public transparency and accountability and political and legal risks.
Could you email this, or is this in the
It's
thing?
just the Basel Index. Go right to
Okay,
the Basel
all right.
Index. See? Basel AML Index.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can look at the different categories.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay. Renita, we want to talk about the homework. Is Renita there? Okay. So Renita is still at work. Okay, so next week then, Renita, let us know what your questions are in regards to the homework, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys. So any other questions or concerns?
No.
No, ma'am. Okay. So take a look at the, take a look at the classwork. See if you can answer the questions regarding risk, and then come prepared next week, and we'll talk about it some more. Like I said, it's right up front. It's not clear, but the more we discuss it, the more you get familiar with it. So don't worry about it so much right now. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So have a productive week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right.
Good evening, all.
Good evening, all.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.